Hello and welcome to the BANT webinar on professional practice issues. My name is Barbara Powell and I am the Chair of the Professional Practice Committee and Membership Director of BANT. Today I'm going to discuss with you some of the key professional practice issues that the Professional Practice Committee, commonly known as the PPC, deal with. As a BANT member, you agree to abide by the BANT Professional Practice Handbook as well as the CNHC Codes of Ethics, Performance and Conduct. The BANT Professional Practice Handbook is there to provide you guidance and advice on the practice of nutritional therapy and the principles of professional conduct and performance. It includes guidance on the expectations of the public and of clients. The standards set out in the document apply to all members of BANT. It is an evolving document and will be updated as and when changes occur within BANT or the nutritional therapy profession, or when member queries suggest to the PPC that guidelines need to be reviewed or need to be further clarified. You do need to ensure you are fully familiar with both of the documents, both the CNHC codes and also the BANT handbook. You also need to make sure that you keep fully up to date with any additions or amendments to the Professional Practice Handbook, which were announced via e-blast and on the closed BANT Facebook group. Skype consultations, working with children and related data protection issues, the remit of a BANT nutritional therapist, eating disorders and social media etiquette are issues that Professional Practice Committee are frequently asked about or that come to our attention. So these have been selected as the sections of the handbook that we will be discussing today. Firstly, we will discuss the use of Skype. We are frequently asked about the use of Skype or other similar means and come across members from time to time who use Skype inappropriately, so it's important to understand BANT's guidelines on Skype. We do fully understand that in these modern times, potential clients are leading increasingly busy lives, often juggling a number of different commitments. Skype consultations may at first seem like an effective solution, but the question is, can you observe many of the important details that may be relevant to a client's health via a webcam? The PPC regularly review the guidelines for the use of Skype for consultations. However, we still conclude that much more can be gleaned about a client's health when meeting them in person, much of which may be missed via a webcam consultation. Some of these key health signs include skin pallor, dryness of skin, nail health, bags, dark circles under the eyes, physical energy, hair health and body shape. And then there's also the inability to take blood pressure measurements or indications of adrenal response or other in-house tests. A face-to-face consultation is therefore still the preferred option for an initial consultation. So what are the current guidelines? The handbook says the first appointment with a client should be a face-to-face consultation. The use of Skype or other forms of electronic communication that include the use of a webcam do not currently constitute a face-to-face consultation. If, for any reason, an initial face-to-face consultation is not practical, a telephone or Skype consultation may be conducted and must, in the normal manner, be accompanied by thorough note-taking and a client questionnaire. The following guidelines must be followed before a telephone Skype consultation takes place. Firstly, the client must be advised on initial contact that a face-to-face consultation is the preferable form of a consultation. Then the client should be given the details of the practitioner directory on the BANT website to allow them to try to find a practitioner in their local area to enable a face-to-face consultation to take place. Clear notes must be made in the client's file, either the electronic or paper file, which includes the reason why an initial face-to-face consultation has not been held. Examples of this may include ill health of the client, distance from an available practitioner, personal choice of the client, or the client lives abroad and there is no suitable entity in their location. On occasions, when a face-to-face consultation may not be practical, we do recognise that a Skype consultation may be the only option. This might occur when a client is based in a country or an area where there are currently no BANT registered nutritional therapists. Or it may occur where a client needs expert advice about a specific health concern. For example, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, cancer, and many others. In such cases, you will need to ensure that the client has all the relevant detail and all the options so that they can make an informed choice, and you will need to record this information in their files. We will now move on to looking at the guidelines for working with children, starting with the guidelines for working with children under the age of 16. These guidelines are a legal requirement, so it is vital that you are fully up to date with these and abide by them. They are covered in the section 2.2, the law of the Professional Practice Handbook. When working with children under the age of 16, the child should be accompanied by either a parent or legal guardian, and permission to consult with the child should also have been given in writing by the parent or legal guardian. BANT encourages that our members use the BANT Consent to Consult a Child form, which can be found on the BANT website. This form states, a BANT member practitioner is not permitted to advise or consult with clients under 16 years of age without their parent or guardian being present and without the written consent of the parent or guardian. It is really important to understand who has parental responsibility. This is part of the Children's Act 1989. Parental responsibility may include the mother. The child's father will only have parental responsibility if the parents were married at the time of the birth. If the parents were not married at the time of the birth but have subsequently married, the father will only have parental responsibility by becoming registered as the child's father through either a court order or a parental responsibility agreement. Therefore, if a father comes to see you with his child, you do need to establish if the parents were married at the time of the birth, and if not, whether he has parental responsibility or not. Others who may have parental responsibility may include the child's legally appointed guardian, the person in whose favour the court has made a residential order concerning the child. If a mother or father comes to see you requesting you consult with his or her child and the parents are divorced, you need to ensure that the parent in question has parental responsibility. A local authority named in a care order for a child may have responsibility. A local authority or authorised person who holds an emergency protection order for the child may also have parental responsibility. Whilst it may seem intrusive to ask for a father or a mother for evidence that they have parental responsibility for the child, you do need to explain that you need this to ensure you are working within the law. Anyone working with children should also read and familiarise themselves with the document Working Together to Safeguard Children, a guide to interagency working to safeguard and promote the welfare of children. A link to this guide can be found within the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. A parent or guardian who fails to provide adequate medical aid for a child under the age of 16 commits a criminal offence. Nutritional therapy is not medical aid as defined by the law. If you advise a child whose parents refuse medical aid, you risk being considered to be aiding and abetting in that offence. Where you believe that parents are not providing necessary medical attention for the child, you are most strongly advised to inform the Children and Young People Service of the Social Services Department of your local authority or the Child Protection Officer of your local police force. When working with children in a care home situation, it is necessary to have permission from the parent to work with the child. The parent must attend the consultations, and it is advisable for the care worker to also attend. You will need to obtain permission from the parent to have ongoing communication with the care worker. This also applies to working with adults in care homes. From the age of 16, children are presumed by law to be competent to give consent for themselves. If you have any doubts whether a child seeking a consultation is over 16, you must ask for proof of identity. You must not advise clients who are under 16 years of age, as we discussed previously, without the written consent of their parent or guardian and without their parent or guardian being present. Once you have established that a child is over 16, you need to then ensure that you're adhering to the data protection guidelines. Once children reach the age of 16, they can give consent for themselves for their own surgical, medical or dental treatment and any associated procedures, such as investigations or nursing care. This means that in many respects they should be treated as adults. For example, if a signature on a consent form is necessary, they can sign for themselves. However, it is still good practice to encourage competent children to involve their families in decision making. Where a competent child does ask you to keep their confidence, you must do so, unless you can justify disclosure on the grounds that you have reasonable cause to suspect that the child is suffering or is likely to suffer significant harm. You should, however, seek to persuade them to involve their family unless you believe it would not be in their best interests to do so. Many BANT members, alongside face-to-face, one-to-one nutritional therapy consultations, work with groups of clients and/or work part-time or on an ad hoc basis as advisors to different nutrition-related businesses. These opportunities may include supplement companies, food manufacturers and diet-related apps, to name just a few. Here we will discuss just a few of these opportunities and also consider whether they are inside or outside the remit of a BANT practitioner working as either a nutritional therapist or a nutritionist. A company may wish to have their products endorsed by a BANT practitioner to lend them more credibility, but although it is very flattering to be asked, you will need to consider the implications of doing so. The BANT Professional Practice Handbook states that all practitioners must be able to explain and justify all their decisions. Please refer to section 1.1, purpose of the handbook, which states that they must act safely and lawfully at all times. The PPC therefore suggests that any commentary requested by a company is restricted to well-referenced generic information about the ingredients of a product only, and that the product itself is not specifically endorsed. Under the BANT guidelines, making health claims for a product and/or its ingredients is not permitted. In addition, if product recommendations are made within a report which may include health claims, then you may be seen to have a commercial interest. This would breach the nutrition and health claims legislation, which would be a serious legal offence, as well as breaching marketing authorisation. If considering working with or for a company running an online nutrition advice app, you would need to consider the following areas of the BANT Professional Practice Handbook, which may not be under your control. These are confidentiality and consent, data protection, client records, ownership and storage of records. You would also need to be aware that any discussion directly with a client where specific recommendations are given would be viewed as a client interaction and would therefore need to follow the guidelines laid down in the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. Giving general information to a larger audience is the only form that is not considered a client interaction and is therefore acceptable under BANT. For these reasons, it is unlikely that this type of work would fall under the BANT auspices. If you do decide to pursue this type of opportunity, we recommend the following. Do not associate this part of your practice with BANT, i.e. do not mention your BANT membership in relation to the app. We refer you to section 2.5 commercial issues, I, other modalities of the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. Check that your insurance covers you for this type of client interaction. Check that the questionnaire covers any known diagnosed health issues and prescription medications, as there may be contraindications with dietary advice. Ensure that users of the app are over 16 as giving any type of advice to minors without parental consent, as we discussed earlier, is against the law. With regard to working with clients in groups, the giving out of general information should be treated in the same way as you would discuss general guidelines with a group when you are presenting to promote your services. This would include the giving of generic information via handouts or similar. If, however, you asked each of the members of the group to complete a questionnaire, this would result in a contract between yourself and each individual member of the group, which would then bring you and the client into a contract requiring a signed terms of engagement. The PPC would recommend that, if your intention is only to give generic advice, a questionnaire should not be required unless a member of the group wishes to book an individual one-to-one consultation with you. With regard to red flags, the PPC recommend that you should advise any group member who describes as presenting with any red flag symptoms to consult with their GP. Also, it should be mentioned in any group course or session that some foods may interact with prescriptive medications, and the attendee may wish to contact their GP or consider booking a one-to-one session if they feel they need more personalised information. As suggested, it may be that you wish to have a disclaimer for attendees which states that some medications can interact with foods. In these type of scenarios, we would refer members to section 2.1, contract with the client, and 2.3, practitioner conduct of the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. Other queries we have received relate to whether a BANT practitioner may offer consultations over the phone or via Skype on behalf of another company for their customers. This could, for example, be a supplement company extending its services. BANT's guidelines regarding working online with clients via Skype or other similar means are stated in the BANT Professional Practice Handbook, as we have discussed earlier. These guidelines are there to protect both the client and the BANT member. These types of consultations on behalf of companies may not adhere to the BANT Professional Practice Guidelines. The company may, for example, want own brand reports to be generated for customers rather than an individualised plan based on a client's goals and health concerns. As stated on the BANT website, practitioners consider each individual to be unique and recommend personalised nutrition and lifestyle programs rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. BANT guidelines are based on the initial consultation being face-to-face, which a telephone or Skype consultation will not be. It is also possible that there may be other concerns related to the guidelines in the BANT handbook, and what you are being asked to do in these consultations may not be under your control. If you are asked to undertake this kind of work on behalf of a company, we would recommend that you specifically review the same sections of the handbook as we discussed under working on nutrition apps. You should also note that any discussion with the client would be viewed as a client interaction and would therefore need to follow the guidelines laid out in the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. Of course, each case is different, and without further information, we would be concerned about sanctioning such consultations under the remit of a BANT member. However, if you were offered such an opportunity, then we would recommend that you do the following. Do not associate these consultations with BANT, i.e. do not mention your BANT membership in relation to work with the company. This you can see under section 2.5 commercial issues, section I, other modalities of the BANT Professional Practice Handbook. Check also that your insurance covers you for this type of interaction or that you are fully insured by the company that you are working for. Use a questionnaire that covers any known diagnosed health issue and prescription medication, as there may be contraindications with dietary advice. Please, if you are unclear and you need any clarification at all, then contact the Professional Practice Committee, who can be contacted at bantpractice@bant.org.uk. We fully understand and empathise with our members' need to source employment outside of the one-to-one consultation and wholly endorse this. What we have to be clear about, however, is the acceptability or not of the type of work under the BANT auspices. At the forefront of all of our minds must be safety alongside confidentiality. When dealing with members of the public outside of the one-to-one consultation, we need to be absolutely clear that the advice we are given is suitably general and ultimately safe. We also need to understand that client confidentiality is of paramount importance. Eating disorders. Working with eating disorders and eating stress is a particularly challenging area of work, and it can be easy to quickly move beyond our scope of practice as nutritional therapists if we work in this field. The NICE guidelines state that nutritional counselling alone is not a suitable approach for managing individuals with an eating disorder or even a history of an eating disorder, and there are important issues to consider when working or considering working with this client group. In addition, if you're working in private practice and see clients with an eating disorder or a history of an eating disorder, you must work in collaboration with other healthcare and medical professionals as part of a multidisciplinary team. Depending on the situation, this may include working with a psychotherapist, counsellor, CBT specialist, plus the client's GP and possibly also a dietitian. As a result, and in the interest of client and practitioner safety, BANT guidance is that nutritional therapists should only work with clients with an eating disorder or history of an eating disorder if they have undertaken specific additional training. The Institute for Optimum Nutrition offers an annual one-day short course for nutrition practitioners on eating disorders, and the National Centre for Eating Disorders offers a wider range of professional training. Social media etiquette. The internet and social media is an integral part of most NT's business. As with any marketing communication, you must represent yourself and your profession appropriately. As a BANT member, you are not only representing yourself, but you are ambassadors for the profession as a whole. Your post should be in line with the values of your training and your professional body. Rules for social media are no different from that of non-tech etiquette. However, the world of social media moves so much faster. It is important before posting to be aware of the possible effects words, pictures and videos may have on the many that they may be shared with. It is also important to remember that, once out there, retraction is difficult. The key points to remember are to ensure that all the information about yourself is accurate, that any photos of yourself are appropriately professional, that all information you post is of appropriate value, relevant to your business, insightful and informative, and that your posts are checked for grammar, spelling, and to ensure they say what they are meant to say. In addition, you should take care not to glorify your qualifications or length of experience. You should not mix business and pleasure. Keep your personal and business accounts separate. Also, do not post anything that you would not want all of your clients to see. And remember, do not post in haste. If you are irritated or angry about something you have read, reflect on how you might deal with this in a professional manner rather than posting in haste and having regrets. Remember, the social media world moves very fast. And do not post on anything that could be potentially viewed as offensive, which is a crime. And do ensure that your posts cannot be misinterpreted. Earlier this year, in March 2018, BANT and the CNHC issued a joint statement in relation to the use of protocols. We discussed earlier in this presentation that BANT practitioners consider each individual to be unique and recommend personalised nutrition and lifestyle programs rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. As stated, BANT are not affiliated with and do not accredit GAPS educational programs, nor does it endorse their recommended protocols. What we do as BANT members is much bigger than one single therapy or approach. BANT practitioners do not work with a one-size-fits-all model, but assess clients as individuals and support them accordingly. BANT members are encouraged to engage in continual professional development in order to cross the bridge that translates research into practice. However, BANT requires its members to focus on client individuality. Using any third-party method or protocol as a default solution for any specific health concern isn't what BANT members do. We work with people using a whole-person approach, not with protocols, hence the importance of our joint statement with CNHC. Therefore, as a BANT member, you are unable to call yourself a GAPS practitioner or a practitioner by another name that suggests the use of pre-designed protocols. We have discussed today just a small sample of professional practice issues. We can only encourage you to please become familiar with the latest version of the Professional Practice Handbook and keep up to date with any additions or amendments to the handbook. These are announced via e-blasts and also via posts on the BANT closed Facebook group. If you have any queries at all with regard to the Professional Practice Handbook or how to apply the guidelines, then please do email bantpractice@bant.org.uk. Thank you for listening to me today, and I very much hope that you found this webinar helpful regarding your understanding of BANT Professional Practice Guidelines. If you do have any queries whatsoever, we can only reiterate, please do contact the BANT Professional Practice Committee. The email address is bantpractice@bant.org.uk. Thank you.